they were looking into these stoves in China, and they left a copy of the design, right? Like the dimensions and stuff. So I just adapted that slightly. And so the chimney runs underneath this couch, which is all clay. Like I built everything solid clay. So the heat from the smoke goes through this like mass of clay. It heats up, and then it goes out the other end, but almost at a horizontal, like it's not vertical. And it's very cool to the touch at that point, or at least it's not hot.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have our honorary guest here, the man that, first of all, has always supported us. But we're talking about a Hebrew scholar, man, a life
No,
master, a
no.
wild edibles guru, man, the man himself, a friend, a family member. We have Tomek here, ladies and gentlemen. Tomek.
Well, have you ever seen a wigwam?
I don't know what the heck that is. I'm in New York, bro.
It's it's like, well, yeah. I mean, the natives. I don't know if the ones in New York call them that, but there's some natives they call it a wigwam. It's just like a First Nations style frame for a hut. So
Like a
it's like a
teepee?
dome hut, right? So I had like a wigwam frame. You hear me? Because
Yeah.
you're cutting out a bit.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
You hear me? Okay. So yeah, it's like a frame like in a dome shape, and then that was the frame, and then like I built everything just from stuff in the forest. I kind of used mostly the First Nations technique, but I also took some stuff from like travelers and Roma people. They have a few things they do with tents and stuff, so I copied some of the stuff they do. And yeah,
So what
there's a
most
video, so you can kind of. I haven't put it up yet. I've been meaning to.
so the base, is it made out of stones? Like I mean, I'm sorry, sticks? Like is it made out of wood like the base?
Yeah, there's basically what you do is you take sticks, you stick them in the ground, you
Mhm.
burn like you can burn the ends of the stick first so they don't rot too fast, and then that way like they stay in the ground, and then like if you see my hands, I don't know if I can show you, but you kind of stick sticks in the ground like this, and then
Mhm.
you bend them over and tie them up here. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
And so you do that in a circle, and you get a dome or a sphere, like half sphere kind of shape. And so like the foundation, there's no rocks in the foundation or anything. You just stick in sticks in the ground, and that holds it in shape. And then once you tie all of that together, it holds together, even if it's out of the ground or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So then do you use something for the roof like in a yurta? Like
Sorry, like a what?
do you know what a yurta is? You kind of refer to the Roma people. But do you know the yurta like the Central Asian people use and the Mongolians use?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah. I call it a yurt, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah, yeah. So is the roof kind of the same? Like what did you use for the roof?
It's different from a yurt. It's similar in some ways because it's similar in some ways, but a little more simple, I would say. Yeah, it's more simple, I would say. So
Hmm.
the roof, I basically birch bark. Like if you peel birch bark, like big strips off a tree, and then you dry them out flat, they're
Hmm.
waterproof, and you can use them like shingles or something, and then you just kind of spread them out on the roof, and the
Hmm.
water, drips off like simple type of shingle thing. So I did that on the roof, and then I also had I did like, what do you call it? Like kind of a thatch. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, yeah. I got you.
like yeah, like straw thatch, but I didn't use straw. I used reeds. So like reeds are the really long grass. For those who don't know, reeds are the long grasses that
Mm-hmm.
grow like by riversides and stuff. They're really common. They're almost like bamboo. If you break them, they're like mini bamboos.
Yeah. So
So I use that too.
what did you use for the floor?
Yeah, go ahead.
What did you use for
The
the floor?
floor was like, let me see here. So I needed the stove was right on the ground, but I insulated under it with like a few different layers of natural stuff. So like you can insulate stuff with charcoal because it's porous, right? So I learned that and I used that to kind of insulate the bottom of the stove from the cold ground. But the rest of the ground, I just laid down layers and layers of cedar, like branches and boughs and stuff because it's a cedar forest there, which is really fortunate because cedar's like great for building stuff.
How big is this tent? Like if you were to, approximate measurement.
Oh, it's small. It's like a hut, so I don't know. I think I did it either 12 or 13 feet across in diameter, right? Diameter, yeah.
Mhm.
Like 12 or 13. I was gonna do bigger, but honestly, it's more work than it seems. Like when you're outside with no electricity, it's more work than it seems. So I didn't want to overdo it. It
How
was a
how
bit too small, but like it wasn't too bad. It's yeah.
how long did it take you to do this, man?
Sorry, you cut out. What was that?
I said, how long did it take you to accomplish this?
Oh, not that long. The hut was like a week, and then the stove was like another week. Just like a few hours a day.
So what is the stove made out of? I'm trying to imagine it, man.
Okay, yeah, the stove you can actually see because that video I did put up, and then the stove's in the hut, so you'll kind of see the hut on the inside, but it was not finished. Like it was still pretty rough at that point. The stove is so like it's just clay. Like there's a lot of clay underneath the topsoil there. So, like I was just digging down far enough to hit clay, wheeling out the clay, and then packing. Like I built like a box frame out of sticks and trying to show you with my hands here. Sorry, I built like a box frame on the ground with sticks and planks, and then I just filled it up like with this clay, and then like packed it down really tight, and then I hollowed out the part where I wanted the fire and the smoke to create heat, and then I used stone slabs like river, those flat river stones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I pulled a bunch of those out, and then I let them dry, and then a few of them exploded because I guess they weren't dry enough, but the rest were fine.
So what do you use for the chimney, man? Like because you do have to have smoke not being trapped, right?
Yeah, so it's like because it's kind of it's not really a Kafka stove, but it's a similar, mm, what do you call it? It's a similar idea. Are you kind of familiar with like how they work?
Yeah. I always wanted one, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm super interested in stuff like that. I don't know, I just love it. And so I looked up a design for how, because some in a lot of places people stopped using like efficient wood heat for winter. They've switched over to like really modern stuff, but in a lot of places they still use like really old, reliable techniques. And like the cool thing about these stoves is how efficient they are. I love it. I used to have like a regular wood stove, and I got a trailer first, so I put a wood stove in there, and it was terrible. I had to constantly babysit it so I wouldn't freeze to death. And the same thing like when I put a stove in a big Like at one point, I had a big army tent I was using instead of the hut and instead of the trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and like a big canvas tent. I put a stove in there. It was the same problem. It was just constant babysitting. So I'm like, I need something more efficient that I don't have to bust, you know, constantly work hard to chop wood and stuff like that. It's just too much work. So I was looking up how the Kafka stoves work because people can like burn sticks in there, right? You don't have to have really big pieces and stuff. So
What?
I looked up the designs they have in China and in Korea. Like in China, they have a Kang stove, and in Korea they have an Undal stove, and they're pretty similar. It's like you ever see? Okay, so have you ever noticed how? This is my understanding of it. Have you ever noticed how people in some cultures in East Asia they kind of sit on the floor and do stuff on the floor?
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
So like it's because they used to have these big stoves underneath the house just heating the whole floor. And it was basically the same idea as the Kafka stove. Like the smoke is what makes the stove efficient. So my chimney, in that regards to that, my chimney was very like horizontal at a slight angle, and that chimney went underneath. So basically, I had like a couch or bed that was built into the stove, and that's what I would
Whoa.
sleep on, right?
Whoa.
It's kind of similar like in Russia or in probably in Ukraine, they have those kind of stoves people can sleep on, right?
We do. We do.
And so it's like that. Yeah. And but they have the same thing in China, they had the same thing in Korea. So I kind of copied the Chinese approach a little bit, and I literally took a design that some people in the West were researching, like they were looking into these stoves in China, and they left a copy of the design, right? Like the dimensions and stuff. So I just adapted that slightly. And so the chimney runs underneath this couch, which it's all clay. Like I built everything solid clay. So the heat from the smoke goes through this like mass of clay. It heats up and then it goes out the other end, but almost at a horizontal, like it's not vertical, and it's very cool to the touch at that point, or at least it's not hot. So when
Mm.
you touch the smoke at the end of the chimney, it's like it's not it's just warm. So most of the heat, I'm keeping a lot of that heat. I'm not losing it. And I was just burning sticks. It was way better.
So, in this region, in this undisclosed location, how cold would it get at night?
Um, I was careful not to like. Because I wasn't sure how good it would be. So I was really like incrementally testing how well it would work because it was basically like an experimental design. I'd never made one before, so I might not work that well. It turned out it worked really well, even though my insulation in the hut was, it left a lot to be desired because it was all like reed and straw and stuff like that. And I was still only a few layers away from the ground, and like the ground freezes and stuff in winter. So keeping that in mind, like I was there minus up to minus 15, and it was fine. I was able to sleep. I was warm. I was comfortable. That mass, even if the air like in the hut is cold, once you get on that bed, it's just radiating heat into your bones, and you can't be cold
Wow.
on that thing. See that it's that ancient technology. Like it's tried and tested.
It's way better, right? In a lot of
I
ways.
pers- yeah, I personally think it kind of blows my mind that people don't use these everywhere because you don't like I literally just burn sticks that I find in the bushes. I
Hmm.
don't chop wood, I don't cut down trees. I just take handfuls of sticks, burn those. I might chop up like a dead branch or something. That's pretty much it. And then I do that once, 2 or 3 times a day, which is like compared to constantly feeding a normal wood stove with giant logs that you
Hmm.
have to cut down a whole tree to get. You know, I think there's no comparison.
So you didn't have to wake up in the middle of the night and make sure that you're not getting cold, you're not freezing. So
Yeah, exactly. That's the beautiful thing about it, because even after the fire went out, the embers would still be there and they were feeding a little bit of warmth into the mass. And that smoke was still warm in there, and the mass would hold heat. Like if you warm it up for a few hours in the morning and then a few hours before you go to bed, that thing is like you sit down on that bed and it's like really warm. You know, it's like you feel the heat pumping into your bones. You just start to relax, and then that lasts, from what I remember, like it lasted a solid 8 hours. And
mhm.
then on the coldest nights, if I didn't burn that well, you know, it would start to get a little uncomfortable at the 8 hour point. But it wasn't like bad. It was, I get pretty cold in like modern apartments in comparison when I'm sleeping, because they don't have that like radiating heat, you know?
Yo, I can't stop being amazed by you, man. Like every time. This is great. Yo, it takes a lot of huevos, man. It takes a lot of balls to do something like this, man. Like how did you find the courage to be like, yo, let me try to do this, man?
Oh, does it? I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I didn't. I was just driven to do it because like it's, for me. I go nuts in the city. Like it. I just start going nuts after a while. I can't function. It's too much for me sometimes. So I've
But
been like doing these type of things for quite a while. Just these escapist natural plots of mine. You know.
because we're so as a society, man, we're so used to